Hey, folks, happy Friday and welcome to the Freedom from the Press podcast. My name's Jason Robertson, and I'm here with my partner in crime,
Todd Peterson. Thanks for joining us, folks. Jason, good to be back with you again. I feel like it has been since August since you and I sat in the chair together here. But, folks, good morning. Kagan Girl, first in the chat. As always, we still owe Kagan Girl a hat first on the Freedom from the Press podcast. But, folks, thanks for joining us today. We are going to get spicy. Just be forewarned, we will be switching over to Rumble to discuss most of Ilhan Omar. So if you're watching us on Facebook, you're catching it later here, you're like, I like what these guys have to say. Check out rumble.com, go to the American Tribune, and you can find Freedom from the Press podcast over there.
Yeah, I got to say, Todd and I, 2 weeks ago, I had some family stuff. Last week, Todd had a prior commitment. So it's the first time we've been together, and we haven't really been able to sit down and talk even amongst ourselves or the audience about the Charlie Kirk thing, kind of where things are at. We're going to talk about Colbert. We're going to show a lot of the media hypocrisy, that kind of stuff. But Todd, maybe before we get into it, and I've heard you on your other podcast, turned into Todd Peterson Live or American Tribune Live, Tuesdays, Thursdays. But like, where are you at? What's hitting you the hardest about this Charlie Kirk stuff?
So I got to be honest, and I have laid this out in a lot of tweets, and I've said this before. I have to preface this comment in saying we are never going to grieve, obviously, to the extent that his wife, his children who were present that day. I saw a video from Frank Turek come around. He was one of Kirk's close spiritual leaders and advisors here. Like, I wasn't there. I've never met the man. Even still, I'm still affected by this. We're going on over a week since Kirk was horrifically assassinated, thanks to the radical ideology of the left. But this one still hits close to home, and I can't get over just being a loving father, a loving husband, a good Christian, a good American, moderate on all of his positions here. To some extent, like, it's trite now to say it, but Charlie Kirk was all of us. This was a regular patriot, a regular guy, had a job, had a family, loved this country, loved God, and they took him down. They took him down, and you could see the left celebrate that, and you finally realized that they hate you. And the way they celebrated Kirk's death, the way they radicalized people to have him killed, you suddenly realize that could be any of us, and that's what they want. If you or I, Jason, or anyone else, and this will happen again because I'm going to do this on my podcast next week. Randy Weingarten just came out with a book, the Teachers Union president, about how teachers make fascists afraid. So they are not backing away from the rhetoric. They are doubling down, tripling down. They have not changed a single beat because they're not going to. They're not sorry that it happened even. They're not going to stop till that's all of us. And so I think that's where I'm left now, still grieving for his loss because it's almost unfathomable, but that's the point we've reached in this country. But then also fully aware that they are coming for all of us. And I can't shake that feeling.
Yeah, it's interesting. And like Todd said, grieve for the Charlie Kirk family, horrible, all the things. I was not a huge, I like Charlie Kirk. I thought he was doing good work. I enjoyed watching some of his videos on, when I'd see him on clips. Every now and then I catch podcasts. Was not a big Turning Point USA Charlie Kirk consumer. Didn't listen to his podcast all the time. Never met the guy. It was just kind of a casual acquaintance with him in consuming his content. And it was funny because Charlie did just amazing work on campus. He was out there preaching the gospel, connecting. He was teaching young men and women to be courageous in their conservative values. And it was always interesting because I always looked at Charlie Kirk and what he was saying that made people mad. And I was always like, I don't know about you, and folks, let us know in the comments. I always thought Charlie Kirk was more moderate than me. The guy had way less radical positions than I did on many issues. He was just a pretty milquetoast traditional guy. And it always bothered me that they called Charlie Kirk a fascist or Nazi or he, what, all the stupid things, Handmaid's Tale or whatever. But the guy literally went on campus, sat down, and he was talking to people about, just, hey, here's kind of traditional conservative values is what I live by. And it always made me sad how much he was demonized. And then when he was killed in cold blood, and it just broke my heart because think of all these young men and women who looked up to him, who engaged. He built this huge network. And then the horrific thing happened, which will lead to us talking about Jimmy Kimmel, which was I saw on just my personal Facebook feed that I don't do any business stuff. I don't do some posts on. I saw friends, families, neighbors of mine celebrating his death. And I often talk about how people are brainwashed. The left, like, is living in an alternate reality. They think they're in pre-Nazi Germany. And I was understating the level of where things are at. And that's been really the most eye-opening for me. Not only did the left lack just basic human empathy, but the left lacked, like, they thought what they did were good. Like, in this movie, they think the guy that shot him was the good guy, not the evil guy. And and it really hit me. And you know, folks, let us know in the comments, like, have you seen this? And Todd, you know my wife, you met Jen, J Rob from Minnesota, the other J Rob. Um, she actually that day when it happened and she saw people, just normal people, just like people she's friends with, or they used to work together, so became friends on Facebook, people you'd see in the grocery store, like happy he got shot. And my wife that day said, I just can't even go on Facebook. She has not been on social media since that day because just it forced her to look at people in her everyday life so differently than what she thought. And she's like, and then in her brain, she's like, wait a second, these people are okay with Charlie Kirk being shot, and they're kind of cheering it on and they're kind of encouraging it. And like, what does that mean for me? You know, like she agreed with most of his stuff. It's insane, Todd. It's insane.
It's so insane. And Charlie Kirk gets credit. He pointed this out that we live in an assassination culture now. You think back to when Donald Trump got inaugurated, Elon Musk was the co-president of the Trump administration for a while. This was the logical conclusion. Unfortunately, this is where we are now. I think people need to recognize the moment that this will keep happening so long as Democrats are allowed to have any platform because they're out of ideas. They labeled you these things for a reason. They labeled you these things on purpose to justify these exact incidents. I think half the country, when it was polled, was like, yeah, Donald Trump's assassination, okay. Elon Musk, if he got assassinated, okay. And these people, even if they're not outright celebrating it, and we've seen tons of fantastic firings, the culture is shifting, Jason, when you're getting fired now for glorifying the events in Utah. But even the people that aren't outright celebrating it, every single Democrat I know, whether on social media or in my personal life, will say, Charlie Kirk, that shouldn't happen to anybody. But, and then the huge caveat is like, but he was a racist and a sexist and a misogynist and a xenophobe and an Islamophobe. So maybe he shouldn't have been such a hater. And so in their own backhanded way, they're still justifying what happened to Charlie Kirk. People need to realize that they are surrounded by demons. Jason, maybe you're different. Maybe our audience is different. I have not met a single normie Dem that has just simply said, it's awful what happened and Dems need to slow it down. Not a single person that I know. And I know a lot of people.
Yeah, it's fascinating because I talk about on the show, like, part of how we save this country is normal Dems. And like, we need normal Dems to wake up. And yeah, Skip over on the Facebook. All I can tell you is liberal Dems, whatever they say you want to call them, are evil, and we can't put up with it any longer. Yeah. Skip, I think that is an understatement. Thanks for tuning in, by the way. And you hit the nail on the head. Like, this is a hard stop. Like, this shouldn't have happened. They shouldn't have called them all those names. They shouldn't have. The media, the influencers, the corporate press, like, demonize this man so badly that these folks are just consumed by evil, and they think what happened was not only okay but justified. And like Todd said, you don't get a sentence out of them, but without a but, you know. And folks, if that's you or me or Todd or any of our loved ones, they'll think that same thing. And I'm just blown away by it. And it's, yeah, it's just.
I got to jump in, Jason, because you talk about how your own family, if you were to die, he was a good husband and father, but he voted for Donald Trump. So my really sad, he said, my sister-in-law, I shared this story last go around when the election was here. And she said, I can't talk politics with anymore. And like, okay, fine, we won't talk politics. But of course, she's a leftist and didn't stop there. She said, because I can't separate how I feel about Donald Trump being a racist and misogynist, and she used all the words that she was programmed to say, with your support of him. So my sister-in-law called me all the things that she feels about Donald Trump, and this is exactly how they feel about all of you. If I were to get offed and my kids were left without a father, my sister-in-law would be like, it's too bad that these two cute little girls don't have their dad anymore, but he voted for Donald Trump and he was the H word and the F word and he supported the P word. Like we got our guy Patrick in the chat again. I guess we got to pray more for Patrick still because he's still doing the same talking points. Not even going to show his face on the comment screen today. That's how they feel about you. He voted for Trump. He supported Trump. He was a fascist, so he deserved to die. I won't miss him. They all feel that way. That is their baseline, and that's been exposed in the wake of the Kirk assassination.
Yeah, it's funny. And Todd and I were talking before the show. I just to share a personal story. And I got to be careful because we're streaming to you live on Facebook, YouTube. We're on the Rumble. I would recommend everybody go to the Rumble. It's our best chat. We do an uncensored part on there. But I remember the political divide was getting wide. And in 2016, I was a Trump supporter. And some of my Democrat friends like made fun of me, didn't like me because of it. And they really thought Trump was a bad, evil guy. Kind of like, I'm going to show his face just for a second. Patrick, he wants to call Trump the kitty R word. Patrick, we pray for you. Thanks for tuning in every Friday, too.
Patrick doesn't know that he boosts us in the algorithm. Yeah.
Yeah, he boosted the algorithm. We appreciate you tuning in and stuff. But he has been so programmed. He thinks that, and when he says the word fascist or Nazi, he is not saying it ironically or hyperbolically. Patrick believes he is living in pre-Nazi Germany, and anything he does would be justified because you all know what Hitler became. It is not hyperbole anymore. It is not speculation. It is not any of those things. He really is that mentally ill that that's what he thinks. But back to my friend's story. So when the events of 2019 and 2020 happened, I was somebody who I did the social isolation, worked from home, wore the mask out to the grocery store, all the things. The one thing I didn't want to do is I didn't want to get a certain medical treatment. It freaked me out. I didn't like it.
Well, Jason, you were just like, you listened to Kamala Harris. You didn't want the Trump vaccine. So you were simply being a good, I guess, a good Democrat at the time, because that was the thing before the election happened.
Right. Yeah. Everybody before the election was like, nobody should dare take this. And I'm like, I agree with you. I don't care if President Trump tells me to take it. I ain't taking it. And then when Joe Biden won, everybody's like, no. We were just kidding. You should really take it. And if you don't, you're an evil, stupid, horrible person. And these were the same people that 2 months earlier were like, yeah, no, you should never take that. I would never take it, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I wasn't going to take it either way. But I remember I got the Rona and it hit me really hard. And I went to the doctors and they gave me medicines and steroids and stuff. And my oxygen level was really low. I was in like the 80s. They're like, if you go much lower, like we're talking, like you're not going to make it. And they're like, what can you do? Really not much other than throw you on oxygen. They wanted to keep me in the hospital. I said, well, if now's my time and there's nothing you can do, I'm just going to go home, take the oxygen tank with me. So I'm sitting on my couch for 3 days after I got steroids or whatever they gave me, and literally just sitting on an oxygen tank on my couch going like, is this my time? And my buddy, who lifelong friends, 20 some years, kids hung out, knew each other's wife, the whole thing. He was messaging me and I'm like, I really am not up to fighting about politics today. Like I'm on my deathbed. And he said to me, he goes, well, it serves you right. And I'm like, what did you just say? No, literally, here's my oxygen level. I might not make it. My wife and I are sitting here praying, hoping I don't die. And you're saying it serves you right. And he's like, yeah, you should have got it. And I'm like, what? Like the dehumanization of me for that had reached the point where a friend of many years is like, well, you get what you deserve. And I'm like, holy crap. And it was one of those like completely changed my worldview. And now we have the Charlie Kirk thing, and I see things have gotten even worse.
Yep, nothing has changed there. And just remember, Jimmy Kimmel himself said if you are unjuiced, you should not get treatment in the hospital and be left to left to fate. And so this is a man that for a long time has also spewed similar hate here. Rona stuff, and now the Kirk assassination. I did get a comment here. Melissa's over there saying the Trump vaccine. Let me just pop this up really fast here. I think people forget what the Democrat narrative was prior to the 2020 election swinging the way that it did. You had every prominent Democrat, Andrew Cuomo, governor of New York in the time, summer 2020, this time as a vice presidential nominee and candidate. Kamala Harris said she wouldn't trust Trump on any vaccine released before the election here. So that was what was going on. That was the Dem narrative. And just worth pointing out because they swung so hard in the other direction once we decided to accept the 2020 results here. Jason, I don't know about you. My screen is looking pretty weird right now. I got to figure out what happened here.
That's looking a little weird, but yeah. Oh, thank you. He's gone. I thought Pam Brown was talking. She was responding to the Kimmel. I'm guessing, not the Charlie Kirk. But sorry, folks, for those who are just tuning in. We're just dovetailing on a little bit of Charlie Kirk talk. Let us know what you're thinking, seeing, all these things. And it's interesting. Ronald over on the Facebook, they're so sympathetic about the killer and Jimmy rather than Charlie, who has only had deep spiritual concern for these students, but everyone around him and loved him. It's so sad he left his footprint on the world. Sadly, he'll be missed. R.I.P. Charlie. Yeah, it's remarkable. The Democrats just, and anybody on the left, Mary over on the Facebook, Democrats are devils. They're moving this country.
Oh.
She did not seek medical treatment like I did either. I will not. Yeah, I can't say that on some of these platforms, Mary. But anyways, it's
dark tangents today here, but
yeah. And so now kind of dovetailing it into the next thing. So Todd just showed you, we reference pre-election, post-election. Pre-election, it was, and talking about 2020, if you were going to get the Trump V word, you were bad. And then after the election, if you didn't, you belonged in a camp and we hope you died. This is not hyperbole. This is what was said. This is what we all experienced. Now, after Trump's second election, before it was he's a Hitler, Nazi, fascist, all the things. And now after the election, when somebody actually takes action on that, kills a guy in cold blood in front of his family, in front of millions of people saw it. They watched the bullet go in. They watched the blood spurt out. They watched all the things. Not anybody. And you get that was bad from a few politicians. But I'm talking normal Democrats, people that tune in. Let's get Patrick back in the comments. And he can tell us, it was horrible Charlie Kirk died. Hard stop. That shouldn't have done it. Our side demonized him in a way that was unreasonable, and it resulted in some lunatic shooting him. But no. And then the story comes out. Jimmy Kimmel gets on his show, even though all the evidence, and is this the clip of what he said?
I think we have the clip right here of Kimmel telling you, don't believe your lying eyes. You know that Democrats created the environment we live in. You know the radical agenda and the narratives that they push. Don't believe any of that. You're going to believe that he voted for Donald Trump when it was MAGA and he was going to assassinate Kirk. Should we play this one?
Yeah, let's play this clip.
Has severed bow ties with Tucker Carlson after all these years.
Oh, yeah, that's the Tucker clip. I got too many Kimmels here lined up.
This will be the interesting one for the free speech warrior coming on. But anyway, so understand Charlie was shot. Once after a day or two, they found the bullet casings that were engraved with radical left-wing stuff. Most reasonable people assume, and it turns out correctly, that this was a far leftist based on the information we had. And then this is what Jimmy Kimmel had to say on his show.
Some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from.
All right, so he says it really fast. We'll play the whole clip here, but just to repeat what Kimmel said here, We on MAGA are trying to score political points and pretend that the alleged assassin of Charlie Kirk was our guy. When we know, and we knew at the time, and that's what makes this worse, we already knew about the Discord servers. We already knew about the, well, I'm just going to say roommate so we don't get fact-checked on Facebook. So many things coming around about who knew, conversations that were happening, and you just know intuitively, like, yeah, our side's not going to do that to one of our guys. That doesn't even make sense. So he is lying to his audience, blatantly lying. And again, information had already come out. This wasn't like the same day, and he's out there like trying to change the narrative. We already knew what had happened. We already knew who did it. But that didn't stop Kimmel from lying to you. This is not a comedian. This is not an opinion getting shared. This was him trying to rewrite history.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yes. Okay. He's at the fourth stage of grief, construction.
All right, I got to pause this for one more comment, then we'll flip it back to you here. The thing that is equally frightening when you see clips like this, not only Kimmel's lying here and propagandizing, it's the laughter and the cheers in the audience. Again, this is half the country laughing at this, cheering at Kimmel's disgusting comments right here. And if you want to talk about the Trump clip out of context as well, I think our business partner, Will Tanner, talked about this clip over in the Tim Pool podcast earlier this week as well. They're cheering for this. And remember, people like Patrick in the comments here, my sister-in-law, your friend that wished, well, you didn't get it, so you deserve what's coming to you. The difference between us and them is that we see humanity in everybody. We don't want anyone to suffer this fate here. We want them to wake up. We want them to join our side, join the America First tent, and just be a normal human being again with normal human emotions. Their side, they want us all like Charlie Kirk. That is a huge distinction on the right and left. Take it away, Jason.
Well, I was going to say first, got to give a shout out to Paul Reese. Paul was kind enough to co-host last week. Paul Rock from Split Rock Coffee. Go to splitrockcoffee.com. Use promo code
Todd10. Splitrockcoffee.com. Promo code Todd10. I was about to take a drink and you threw it over to me, Jason, again. But promo code Todd10 at splitrockcoffee.com. Subscribe and save today for some delicious coffee. I like to get the whole bean. You can get ground already, but I like whole bean. I like to grind it the morning of the brew. Just tastes better that way. But Split Rock Coffee, disabled veteran owned. Paul Reese is here in Tim Walls' tyrannical Minnesota, where Jason and I also pay 10% of our state income in taxes every year.
It's remarkable. I can give a shout out to Dee Dee. Dee Dee's there doing kitchen work. Now I gotta say, like Dee Dee doing kitchen work, like women doing. Can we talk about women doing kitchen work without being labeled misogynist? I think most of our audience would forgive us. My wife does far more kitchen work than I do, but then again, I mow the lawn. So what are you gonna do? But back to more serious matters. So Jimmy Kimmel lies about the orientation politically of the assassin, and nobody knew for sure at this point. Now we're pretty much know for sure. We don't know all the backstory, but we know where he politically leans. And then that clip, if you think that ballroom clip looks familiar, that's because it does. And I've heard different reports. I've heard one report that they were talking in the longer clip. They were talking about the ballroom. Somebody asked him a Charlie Kirk question. The helicopter, Trump couldn't hear it. And I've heard other people speculate that they just edited that audio in of the question. I'll be honest, I'm not positive which it is. But either way, Jimmy Kimmel getting on there, misrepresenting, flat out lying, flat out. It just horrible. And much of his audience, they don't like that Patrick clown we get every week. Thanks for tuning in, by the way, Patrick. Make sure you like the show. They still think the shooter was some MAGA extremist. They don't understand it was a lefty living with something we can only talk about on the Rumble side And then even an article came out where they interviewed the grandma who said, yeah, the whole family's MAGA. Everybody was sharing the article. And then if you read the article, she says, we're shocked this happened. The whole family, good Christian families, other than him. He was a leftist. He fought with everybody at all the holidays. It was right in the article people were sharing. And these are notable. I mean, we're two clowns from Minnesota who get on the internet and complain about stuff. There are newscasters and famous people, and they were sharing this article that clearly said the entire family, pretty much but him, was a leftist. They wrote a deceptive headline that made it sound like he was a MAGA guy, and everybody shared it. And then normie people that don't follow this stuff, that only tune into CNN and Kimmel, they really think this is true. And for that, Jimmy Kimmel is a piece of shit, and he should be kicked off the air as he was. Now, the stories come out, they cancel the show, people are protesting. And then this morning, I don't know if it's verified yet, so take it with a grain of salt. They are saying after Jimmy got the backlash when he said it, he was going to go out and double down on what he said. He was going to, so he went out, lied to his whole audience. At this point, our podcast might get more views than he does, I guess, to be fair. And he was going to double down on it. He got canceled. I could give two shits, Todd.
Yeah, I want to comment on that, but I also want to give a shout out to Nancy. That's the exact haircut I would expect from someone that says the turbotan snake should not be in our government here. Nancy, if you have an actual comment about Donald Trump or the America First movement, please let us know. This stuff doesn't fly on Freedom from the Press here. We need an objective conversation. We need something from you other than a turbo tan snake. But chime in your thoughts. Let us know how we're wrong. Let us know why Kimmel deserves his job after blatantly lying to the American people. Let us know why, in a second, Ilhan Omar should not be expelled from Congress. Let us know your thoughts about Charlie Kirk's death. Are you even sad that he is gone, that he was murdered in front of his family and in America? I'm going to say I doubt it. I'm going to say Nancy is probably like, one less F word to deal with. But that's where we're at. That's where we're at. Thanks for watching and commenting, Nancy. It helps the algorithm.
Yeah. But now everybody's losing their mind about Charlie Kirk being, or about Jimmy Kimmel being canceled. Now, to put it in perspective, Jimmy Kimmel, my opinion, and then I'll get Todd's before we get to the clips. Jimmy Kimmel's show, I bet, was losing a ton of money. They were looking for a reason to can the guy. You know, Colbert just got canceled, and the reason Colbert got canceled was because he was losing a ton of money. Now his show's still on the air for a few more months. The way he's acting out, it probably won't, but the number came out, they're losing tens of millions. I think that the number was like $40 million. So they were looking for an excuse to get rid of Kimmel, is my guess. And I compare this because I spent a long time in the retail world, and we would always joke, you can be a pain in the ass if you are one of the most productive members on the team. You can cause trouble. You can be kind of like the amount of trouble you can cause your company is directly proportional to how good you are. And when Jimmy Kimmel not making any money for them, not getting viewers, and causing trouble, it's a recipe to get canned. Now the left wants to act like this is some assault on free speech and all those things, right? But should we hear what Jimmy had to say when other cancellations happen, Todd?
Let us fire this up here. We maxed out our studio here, so it just takes a quick second to replace.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk.
Oh, God, did we do it again?
We're going to have to work with our IT staff, Todd.
Who is
I don't know.
producing this show here? Here we go.
News has severed bow ties with Tucker Carlson. After all these years, they are parting ways, which means he was fired. I mean, that's really what parting ways means.
It's weird how they're cheering. Notice, again, the cheers. Are they cheering for Kimmel's fire?
Tucker couldn't be reached for comment. He's already on a plane to Moscow to meet with his manager. But what a shock. I mean, what an absolutely delightful shock this is. Now Tucker can spend more time at home tanning his testicles and touching himself to that sexy green M&M. Sadly, he's probably not done poisoning old people's brains. The question now is, where will he do it next? Will he go to OAN? Will he go to Newsmax? Will he crawl back up Satan's fiery beehole from whence he came? We don't know. One of the most despicable mother tuckers ever to appear on American television. Fox.
Jason, I'm just going to posit this thought here. Who would watch Kimmel? I guarantee nobody knows how awful Jimmy Kimmel is. You have the brainwashed libs that tune in every night because they think it's funny and it reinforces their disgusting worldview. Those of us on this side, we might catch a 30-second clip from a monologue every now and then. This was every night for over a decade, the same level of disgusting vitriol and the hate. This is when you realize how much people celebrated Kirk's death, it's because they have been consuming content like this for over a decade, non-stop.
And I got to say, when Trump says he wants to go after him, and Paul has a great comment here, how we raised a generation without God and patriotism and why people have no morals. Adults who vote, who go to the grocery store with you, consume this and are just like, oh yeah. And you wonder why they cheered when Charlie got shot.
Yeah.
And you wonder why my friend said, I got what I deserve. Or Todd's relative says, I can't even talk to you. You're subhuman. You wonder. And then we've been warning about this stuff. We've been doing this show for over 2 years and, talking about how bad this is getting and how these people and their brainwashing, and they think they're the hero in the story. And any actions they do is justified. And Jimmy himself, when people were canceled, he threw a parade. Roseanne Barr got canceled. Everybody threw a parade. And now a guy gets killed. He jokes about it. He lies about it. So he gets canceled. The same beast you built, Jimmy, came for you. And let's be honest, it was more a money thing, I believe. But yeah, what were you going to say, Todd?
It certainly had to do with that. I think it's two parts. I think money is certainly an issue. They needed a way to not lose face when they ended his show because he has such a big name now on that side. But also the culture is swinging in that they can't just defend him for saying ridiculous things every single night anymore because the pushback is louder. Their audience is shrinking. And I do have to say, Jason, so the left is making this like a First Amendment issue. The Trump administration is cracking down on the hammer here, and they're violating ABC and Kimmel's speech to say whatever he wants that's lying and ridiculous. Folks, this is not a free speech issue. A free speech issue would have been the Biden administration colluding with big tech during the pandemic and censoring your thoughts on a whole host of issues related to things that happened in 2020. That would be a First Amendment violation when I get booted off of Twitter for voicing an opinion, and it turns out the Biden administration coerced Twitter to boot me off. That's freedom of speech violation. Kimmel getting fired by his show is his supervisors, his boss, the network that owns ABC, deciding that he's too big of a liability. Donald Trump's administration had nothing to do with this firing insofar as they coerced someone or suggested that should happen. Now, if they look into the license of ABC for hosting such disgusting commentary, that is within their purview because it turns out the government, through the FCC, offers licenses to all of these broadcast companies. But no, it is not a violation of his First Amendment. They are lying to you intentionally when they bring up Trump and Kimmel in the same sentence.
Right. Now, should we see some of the other normal Democrat responses according to these lefties? Like AOC's was pretty good.
So we're going back in time. This is when Tucker got fired. Again, let's see how they responded when Tucker got fired.
Carlson is out at Fox News. Couldn't have happened to a better guy. What I will say, though, is while I'm very glad that the person that was arguably responsible for some of the largest, driving some of the most amounts of death threats and violent threats, not just to my office, but to plenty of people across the country, I also kind of feel like I'm like waiting for the cutscene at the end of a Marvel movie after all the credits have rolled. And then you see like the villain's like hand reemerge out to grip over like the end of a building or something. But deplatforming works. And it
Weird.
It does work.
Hey, hang on. We should play that again, Todd.
But deplatforming works, and it is important. And there you go.
Never let it be forgotten that she is always dumber than you think she is.
Actually, in this case, I don't think she's dumber. She is saying that, and she means it.
Oh, she means it. Make no mistake.
And here is, for those who aren't understanding where this is at, we're living, and this is where, and we didn't talk about this, the hand-wringing Republicans might be making me more mad than the Democrats. Because there's some people that are like, oh, I don't know. Sure, they censored us and canceled our channels and got us fired, but we probably shouldn't do that. That it was wrong then, and it's wrong now. No, F that. Cancel them all, shut them down, nuke their social media. They set the rules of engagement for this conflict. We can choose to adapt and use the rules they set. And here is the leftist. I saw a comment earlier about the communists. Here's what the communists do. The only way America works is because we are a Judeo-Christian nation who shares the same values and principles. And we both agree on, we all are supposed to kind of agree on the big stuff. And then you'll have conflict over the little stuff. The problem is you cannot have that compact, which is where it gets to Ilhan Omar, tune into the Rumble only part. They don't agree to that pact. They don't agree to those principles. They will agree to the limiting principle insofar as it applies to you, but not them. They're saying, yes, you're right. You should be canceled. You should be deplatformed. But if you try to do it to us, you shouldn't, because that's not your principle. Folks, that's how you're going to lose a war. We're in a war. Like, make no mistake about it. AOC right there. Go look at how many likes she had on her video, how many comments, all the people celebrating. And now she's acting. And did we complain when they deplatform people? Yes. Should anybody be deplatformed? In my opinion, no. But if we're going to have a country where half the country can be deplatformed and half can't, we no longer have a country.
Yeah, I just want to bring up, this is one of my favorite quotes of all time, Jason, from the great Frank Herbert. When I am weaker than you, I ask you for freedom because that is according to your principles. When I am stronger than you, I take away your freedom because that is according to my principles. Every time you could apply to every single situation that involves Democrats. And Jason, I am becoming more radicalized by the day. It's also a slippery slope to be like, everyone should have a platform. Everyone should have the freedom to say whatever they want here. I disagree. And the disagreement I have here is that I am at a point where I do not want intentional lies to be given airspace. And someone might point out you were mad when the Biden administration had a disinformation czar. Well, yes, because their definition on the left of disinformation is not grounded in reality and objective truth. My definition is. And so if I can look at a clip of Jimmy Kimmel trying to tie the assassin to Charlie Kirk with MAGA, that is an objective, blatant lie. You're not allowed to just lie like that, especially when the consequences are so high, where you are now justifying, condoning, celebrating, and encouraging more political violence. I don't think Jimmy Kimmel has a right to go on there and lie and brainwash half this country anymore. I would be fine with a crackdown. The alternative is that he is allowed to spew this just blatant gaslighting misinformation, and we see how that affects, if we're going to live in a country with mass democracy, we see how it affects voters. We see how it affects people's responses. We see how it affects people like AOC that are then in government and use that misinformation. So I'm fastly coming down. I am ready for the hammer of authoritarianism, Jason. You just don't get to lie to people. If you want to have an opinion, I think he was MAGA because of X, Y, and Z. Present it as an opinion. But if you're going to present it as fact, knowing it is not fact, that's where I have a problem.
Well, and when you are on a network that's licensed and oh, we should get some of the media clips too.
Oh, we got them.
Now understand, while Todd's queuing it up, these are media professionals. And Todd and I, fun fact, we called this podcast Freedom from the Press because we think the mainstream media is the enemy of the people. They intentionally lie and distort the truth to make citizens mad at each other and brainwash people. And for anybody saying Fox News does it too, it's not just lefties, you're right. Like, you are not wrong. But the left will say, oh, Fox News brainwashed you. The mainstream media is corrupt. And you go, yeah, I agree. Like, I don't watch much Fox News. You know, CNN and MSNBC does the same thing. And they'll be like, no, they don't. Like, go ahead, drive Fox out of business, sue them into oblivion, do all the things. But no, CNN's not doing that. MSNBC's not doing that. They're not lying. They're not misrepresenting the truth. It's sickening.
And I just need to point out, in case people are listening on Spotify or audio, we have a clip that, what's this guy's name? O'Donnell over at MSNBC. Same person, basically the same situation. You could quibble over differences with Kimmel's slot and Tucker's slot when he talks about it here. But this is the same principle of having someone fired, removed from air. You would not know it because the position, the take of this person is 180 from one another, depending entirely on who they support. This is not a principled argument. This is a communist argument.
ABC made the announcement that Kimmel would indeed,
yes, presenting it as news,
be taken off the air indefinitely. And this is just the latest chapter in Donald Trump's ongoing campaign to crack down on free speech, dominate the media, and essentially render the First Amendment meaningless. So it was for the journeyman cable news host Tucker Carlson, just fired from his third network. He believed he could say anything, no matter how vile, no matter how disgusting, no matter how offensive, no matter how dehumanizing, belittling. And if you act like a sociopath over and over and over and over, you will become unpopular on the national stage. That's just like a basic principle. Over time, probably not going to work out well for you in the long run. Eventually, people will be rightly offended.
I'm noticing a difference in the reporting, Todd.
Just a little bit.
That's kind of weird.
So when you're Tucker, you should be accountable for saying things, but when you're Kimmel, and again, they brought up, this is why I had to preface our comments. They're going to tie it into the First Amendment, Donald Trump's administration cracking down on speech. That's not what is happening here. Donald Trump did not control Jimmy Kimmel or ABC. ABC executives didn't want to get sued into oblivion with this massive, costly liability known as Jimmy Kimmel.
You know, permission to dovetail a little bit.
We should rename the show. The subtitle of this podcast is Dovetailing, so take it away.
Dovetailing. Paul Reese and I talked about this last week, and we are business owners. Todd and I are business partners. I've worked in corporate America as well. Todd worked in the education system. Part of running a business is assessing the risk of the people that work for you and determining if that risk is appropriate. We've had real world examples we were talking about before the show where we brought people into the business. They did not exercise the proper care or execution of some of our digital properties, and like they're no longer in the business, right? No, you can't say that on Facebook. No, you can't post. I mean, whatever it is. And as a business owner, all these people getting fired, like part of me is like, I don't know if we fire people just because they say stuff. But the business owner in me, when I see a nurse say Charlie Kirk deserved to die, if I'm a doctor, I can't have that nurse working for me, because if that nurse is treating somebody who is a Charlie Kirk supporter and they're okay with Charlie Kirk being assassinated, I, as a doctor, am like, I don't know if they're going to give the best care to that patient. Like, as a basic human empathy level, this is probably bad. If I'm running a pizza restaurant and somebody says, I'm glad they killed Charlie Kirk, I probably don't want them working in my pizza restaurant. Not for, I mean, I would love if it's whatever the outcome is. But if nothing more than, if a guy shows up in a MAGA hat, do I think they're not going to spit in his food? I mean, they're okay with Charlie Kirk getting shot. Somebody comes in a Charlie Kirk shirt, and how do I know they're, and they think it's okay to post this on public profiles on social media. Like, they don't even say it quietly where no one will hear. They loudly proclaim it on their social media page. It is insane.
Absolutely insane. There's a hot take of, speaking of AOC and Kirk here, she just got to the House floor to defend her no vote. She didn't want to, I think one of our comments referenced this. 58 people voted no to honor Charlie Kirk in a House resolution. AOC got up on the House floor saying that his rhetoric and beliefs were ignorant, uneducated, and sought to disenfranchise millions of people, going on a disgusting rant right now in Congress. AOC is. But sure, I'm out of words, Jason. How many times do we have to say this? They hate you. They hate you, and they all want you dead.
Well, and hopefully our audience understands this reoccurring theme we're laying out here with the medical treatment in 2020. As Kamala said, I would never trust it. And 6 months, and everybody's like, you're right, Kamala. I wouldn't trust it either. 6 months later, when Joe Biden was inaugurated as president, and they told everybody, oh, you got to get this. Everybody's like, you're right. You're right. I need to get this medical treatment. And so far, as if you choose not to, and you were choosing not to, in my case, before the election, even though the president said you should, not, like you're an evil person, don't belong in civil society. Now guys like Chris Hayes, this piece of human garbage, is on the news media saying, hey, Tucker Carlson let me dance on his grave because Fox fired him. Oh my God, Jimmy Kimmel, just a few years later, Jimmy Kimmel got fired, and he said something far worse than anything Tucker said, and he lied, and all the things, and it is somehow a threat to democracy. And the idiots watching this show, the Chris Hayes show, they're going to go, you're right. God, that was terrible. Donald Trump. There we go. More like fascist Nazi. It's insane.
Yeah, I want to fact check. Noel just posted over on Facebook here. I want to spend some time in the comments, Jason. Facebook's been popping. Rumble's been popping today. Appreciate everyone tuning in and commenting. Who is this guy? I made the mistake of saying it was Lawrence O'Donnell. It is Chris Hayes. I will fact check myself there. No, this guy is Chris Hayes. They're all replaceable. I do have to point out every single media shill, every Democrat voter, every Democrat politician, they're all the Borg. They are all replaceable. You could fire, I mean, they'll fire Kimmel. They can find if they replace him. They won't. The late night comedy segment is dead. I don't think they're going to bring that back. But they could find someone new to go on the show, and they would say the same thing. They'd get the same seal clapping. All of these people on the left are the same programmed thing. And I know we talk about dehumanization, but I'm going to save that for Rumble, Jason. That's getting us into the weeds, too, on Facebook.
Well, and I've got to say, Kenneth, over on the Facebook, these people have no morals. Here's what's terrifying, Kenneth, and Todd was way ahead of this. I thought we could reach normie Democrats. I really did. I've talked for 2 years, share content. Maybe we can get through to them. Rah, rah, rah. After Charlie Kirk, I am swinging much more to Todd's side. These people hate you and want you dead. And I'm not talking about Chris Hayes or Jimmy Kimmel. I am talking about the people that watch their shows. And it breaks my heart for the country, for myself, for what it means to all of us, because I don't know what the path out is. But now everybody I see in social media who go, oh, well, who make a joke about him, I have to accept the fact that they would feel the same if that was me.
Yeah, Jason, I just don't know. I really thought if they didn't open up their eyes during the pandemic, when you could watch them lie to you in real time to your face about what was supposed to work and what wasn't working and the solutions that they offered to you, and then how they silenced you for just asking questions. And then, all the information comes out a few years later and you're like, oh, yeah, they did just straight up lie to us. That was kind of my thing. Like, if you're not going to accept that you got lied to then, or the stuff about Donald Trump with the hoaxes, like, no, he didn't call them fine people. Okay, you can see the full clip. Now do you want to ask yourself what else they lied to you about Donald Trump? But now with the Kirk, this one just hits differently here, because now it's not just like lies and beliefs in your worldview and you're trying to defend yourself from having to reframe your entire existence because you bought into the lies and now you have to accept that you got lied to. But with Kirk, you now see the empathy, the humanity of people, or the lack thereof. If you as a human being cannot simply say what happened to him is awful, and you have to qualify that statement, offer a caveat, say, buddy had these views here. If you're just like, there's no redeeming these people. Not on this earth. Maybe in God's time, maybe when you go to the pearly gates, you get redemption. But you're walking on planet Earth, I don't think there's any saving these people. There's no coming back from this. I'm glad he got a bullet in the neck. No coming back from that.
Well, and yeah, it's funny. Francis over on the Rumble. Good to see you, Francis. And these people vote. You know, the media, we allow them to lie to people. And I tell this story. One of my good friends, Jim, he is a Democrat, listens to the podcast every now and then. We get together. I had a real world example back like 5-6 years ago, and it was in the Fine People hoax. And I said, you realize Donald Trump didn't say that? And he's like, no, I saw the clip. And I'm like, they cut the clip. So I played the full clip. Hey, there's fine people on both sides. I'm not talking about white supremacists or white nationalists. They deserve to be condemned completely. And he sat there and he looked at me and he said, holy crap. That's not what they only played that first part. I'm like, yeah, the second part pretty much clarifies it, right? And yet they go on the news every single night and lie about it and lie about it and lie about it and lie about it and lie about it. And then people believe it. And he's like, that's crazy. And then we don't see each other for a couple months. And next time we get together, he had forgot he saw the full clip. He was so brainwashed. We joke about it now years later, where I'll be like, remember that time I had to 3 different times show you the clip? And the media brainwashing was so strong that it was like you'd see the clip. You go, okay, yeah, he didn't say that. And then 3 months later of them just playing the first half on repeat and you hearing that, you really believed it again. And then I'd have to show you again. And you're the one calling me brainwashed, because I'm a conservative. But yeah, these people are evil. It is crazy.
I got to jump in on this Facebook comment from Troy. He's asking one of our other commenters, glad who is gone. This has been an ongoing problem in the chat all show, Jason, because we go back and forth between Charlie Kirk and Jimmy Kimmel. And I think everyone in the comment here is glad that Kimmel is gone. That's my read on everybody's comments here. I don't know if this is funny as we talk about Charlie Kirk here, but everyone is just like, wait a second, are you glad Kirk is gone or Kimmel's gone? Because that's going to that's going to determine my next statement to you here. But that is a problem I've noticed in the chat here. I think we're all in agreement. We're glad Kimmel is gone. And I just have to add this to the list, Jason. Every podcast, it's just memorized and wrote for me. I just run down the list. If you're a Democrat, you're like pro-open border, pro-crime, pro-foreign war, pro-taxation, pro-criminal, pro-illegal alien, pro-doing stuff to kids in the school system. Add to the list now pro-political assassination. Here you and I are over here. I consider myself pretty radical. But then at the same time, I'm saying things that I agree with, like we should close the border. We should deport illegals. We shouldn't encourage political violence. We should tone down the rhetoric. Nothing I say sounds radical when I voice it into the ether. In my own head, I'm like, I'm just that far-right guy in my compound in the bunkers with the turrets ready to go here. But then when I voice what I actually feel, you and I are not radical. Yeah, I don't want the temperature at 1,000 degrees here. I don't want to be called a fascist anymore and wait for someone else to get assassinated by some radicalized lunatic. I don't want to go overseas. I don't want to have an open border. I don't want kids to experience what they're experiencing in the government school system. And yet we're the radicals.
Well, and what's really interesting about it is some of these things. How do people get so far gone?
How do you not agree
I got to fact check you. Because on your list, you said you're against assassinations. The left is only against a left-wing assassination. If you did something bad to Joe Biden or Kamala Harris, you're a demon. If you did something to Charlie Kirk or Donald Trump, they had
Can you imagine, by the way, Jace? Great point. Can you imagine? I'm trying to figure out, the left has no version of a Charlie Kirk. I think we played the Scott Adams clip actually a couple weeks ago. They can't have a Charlie Kirk because Kirk is grounded in truth and fairness and honesty and Christ. And if the left had a Kirk or they had a Joe Rogan, then they wouldn't be on the left anymore because these people speak reason into the world. But so I don't know, pick a name on the left side, some guy. Imagine for a second that it's a confirmed MAGA assassin and they wipe out some big YouTuber or social media guy. Can you imagine the blowback in the media right now? And the demonization that already takes place getting ramped up to a gajillion, you'd never hear the end of it. You would never hear the end of it if the roles were reversed. But again, our side doesn't engage in that because we don't want that. We know that it's not good for the country to go down that path. We value human life. If we disagree with you, we want to change your mind. If they disagree with us, they want us to be killed. So there is no like counterfactual to the story here. But again, play that hypothesis, that scenario in your head, and just try to picture if roles were reversed, folks. Like it's unreal.
Well, and I got to say too, Todd's always been a little bit on the more radical side, which is funny because I do the Wayne Dupree podcast. Wayne thinks I'm a crazy. And
Wayne won't have me back. I was too radical for him. I think I guest hosted with him one time.
Yeah. And it's like they have no idea what's coming. And that's what I tell people about the left. Y'all thought Charlie Kirk was the radical one.
Yeah.
Y'all thought Charlie Kirk was the radical one. I'm here to tell you that was the nice, reasonable one. And you shot him.
You ended the debate. There is no more debate. I love this. Like, that was the guy that would sit down and talk to you. Time for debate is over. Now it is time to simply win. And
I got to say, too, I can't wait for the tribunals. The other interesting thing, like with the cancel culture thing, I think at the left, and it hasn't necessarily hit their brain, but it's starting to. People on the right tend to be logistics, executors, ex-military, and executor in the fact of getting stuff
I was going to say, you might want to define.
Let me clarify that word. People on the right generally, they build houses, they do actual things. They aren't the HR department. They aren't any of those things. They actually go out in the real world and accomplish difficult tasks. And I think part of them, like, they thought it was funny to cancel people or get a few Republicans fired. And they're like, oh, yeah, they got like 20 of us, and they were celebrating. And now, online, when this happened, the entire conservative base, many big people out there, mobilized, and we have seen thousands fired. Thousands. And it was like these informal networks of data sharing and execution and who's calling who instantly sprung up. And the conservatives, who are the ones that make things happen in the world, just are like, we're going to make this happen. We're going to punish the people who said these awful things. And it was like the machine churned up, and I got to say, when they talk, like, part of why we've let them get out of hand, it's back to the Mike Tyson thing where, like, people like online is bad because nobody can get punched in the face. Not that we're saying violence is the answer, but the metaphor is when people aren't held accountable, they believe all these things. And I got to say, if it came down to it, I would want to be on the MAGA side, not on the other.
Yeah, and for the record, I am fine with this tit for tat. It is foolish to not play by the rules set by the communist Dems. So 100% for it. But I got to point out, too, again, Jason, one more time before we switch over to Rumble here. These are not the same thing. When the left canceled conservatives, it was because of wrongthink. It was because of daring to speak the truth. They might speak out against using pronouns. They might point out something about black crime rates. They might say something that wasn't politically okay. It wasn't kosher or euphemized enough. That's what they canceled us over, for wrongthink. We're canceling people because they had the gall to celebrate the assassination of a human being. They displayed zero remorse, empathy, sympathy for his family. It was vile and disgusting. I don't want these people anywhere near my society. You have demonstrated you are not fit to be here. And this is objective fact that you should want to preserve human dignity and life in this country. Whereas on their side, it is not objective fact that I'm hurting someone's feelings if I don't use the right pronouns or I point out crime rates in a certain demographic here. So these are not the same kinds of cancellations, although I am still okay with tit for tat cancellations.
Now, before we sign off on the YouTube and the Facebook, do we have an Ilhan Omar clip we can play just to get everybody's blood boiling? And while Todd's queuing it up, I'm going to say, folks, we got a couple minutes left here on a couple of plattforms, and we're going to go over to Rumble only. Big tech censorship is alive and well in America. There are still things, topics, as you've heard us having to talk in code about medical treatment or whatnot, that still exists. People think it's gone just because Trump won the election. It is not. There are things we can't say, opinions we can't express today, which is funny because when we do a show about censorship and the left losing their mind, I cannot express my opinions on the 2020 election, on the particular shot everybody talked about, a number of different topics on some of these platforms. Ilhan Omar is one of those things. Ilhan Omar is an awful, terrible person, doesn't belong in this country. But to have some of that conversation, we have to do it on Rumble only. So if you haven't, Todd, give them your Rumble spiel.
Well, we love Rumble, Jason. You kind of referenced it already here. Free speech platform. We get to say what we want, get to speak our minds. We don't have to worry about the Zuckerberg. Twitter, I think, still has its terms of service violations that our business partner runs into sometimes here. So there is a line that we have found out on Twitter. But it's just like YouTube, folks. Instead of red, it is green. So if you're looking for the app on your phone, get the green play button. It's just Rumble. Just search out one word Rumble. You get the green app on your phone. If you want to go to the URL in your desktop, go to www.rumble.com. And you do a little backslashing for the American Tribune, or just search in the American Tribune. You'll find our channel here. We are growing, Jason. We have like 3,500 followers now on the page. You can see the comments here, a lively, engaged audience every single Friday that we do the show here. But we value your support over there. And I read through the Facebook comments every week, and I keep thinking to myself, gosh, you would be a perfect fit in our Rumble community here. So we got Scott, Sherry, Debbie, Walter, Pat, Judy. I can't even go up the list. Marty and Joe, and so many others that chimed in. These are just from the last minute chiming in over on Facebook. But we're going to end the feed on our Facebook, folks. We appreciate you tuning in. We're on 3 different Facebook pages: the Original Lose News, Freedom from the Press, the American Tribune. We're going to cut the feed here. The show's going to continue. But again, we're going to be at rumble.com. Rumble.com, search out the American Tribune. And Jason, I think for our Ilhan Omar blood-boiling clip here, this is the one. I'm over it. I'm a single-issue voter. I am voting for whoever sends Ilhan Omar back to Somalia, kicks her out of Congress, gets her on the next plane over there. She was speaking at a white lib church. I have so many comments on this as well, talking about Charlie Kirk in the most disgusting way possible. They have no remorse. They have no shame. They're not sorry about what happened here. They will continue to say the exact same thing that created the environment and radicalized individuals that carried out this assassination here. So here's Ilhan Omar in church when the video clips end. We'll be back in 60 seconds on Rumble at the American Tribune.
I do believe those of you who are interested in rewriting this hateful man's history are full of shit.
Thank you.